Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you some of the best college football news, predictions, and analysis. And as always, as you're watching this video, hit that like button and check out all the links that we have in the description below, where you can go follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Gridiron Expert, and of course check out our official website, thegridironexpert.com, where you can sign up for our weekly newsletter and sign up for our expert picks, where for just $30 you'll receive every single one of our 2019 college football spread picks. So don't miss out on any of the exclusive and extra college football content. Check out everything we have to offer in the description below. Well, as you can see, it is that time of the week again. It is time to break down a new set of the AP Top 25 rankings. These rankings going into week 4 were released just yesterday, and looking at this initially, you can already see that there were not that many changes. And a lot of that is due to the fact that we did not have a single ranked versus ranked matchup in week 3. There were still 3 ranked teams that fell in week 3, but all of those teams were ranked 18th or lower, and all of those teams that were ranked last week that lost dropped out of the top 25. So as always, here at the Gridiron Expert, we are going to break down these rankings, share you if we agree or disagree with the rankings, give you kind of our analysis, and also some big-time matchups to watch out for as we prepare for an exciting Week 4. So right off the bat, you can see the top 9 teams in the country did not change, and they should not have changed. All of these teams took care of business. Clemson all the way down to Florida in the top 9. No discrepancies there. You can't really argue when these teams are winning. Clemson taking care of Syracuse, Alabama taking care of South Carolina, Georgia, Arkansas State in a beautiful gesture that they had towards Blake Anderson's wife, Wendy Anderson, who just recently passed away with breast cancer. So that was one of my favorite moments of week 3. Georgia, of course, retaining the number 3 spot. And everybody else really taking care of business against, I would say, weaker opponents, with the exception of Florida and maybe Ohio State, with the Buckeyes taking care of Indiana in blowout fashion. A team they've struggled against in recent years, did not struggle this year. And then Florida surviving Kentucky, but unfortunately losing their quarterback in Felipe Franks for the rest of the season. So that's something to watch out for as Florida goes through the rest of this 2019 season. How will Dan Mullen and the Gators respond, and how will they fare in the rugged SEC without their star quarterback, who some might be happy is not going to be playing for the Gators anymore because he's been so inconsistent. But for me, he was the most experienced quarterback on that roster for the Gators and did have moments of brilliance. That's a huge loss for them, and a team that, of course, is looking like and wants to be a college football playoff contender, but, of course, has to get past Georgia if they want to do that. So, of course, we mentioned the top 9 are unchanged. There were not many movers at all in this top 25. The biggest riser was Central Florida, right here at number 15, coming up from 17th to 15th after their dominating win over Stanford. And unfortunately for the Knights, I wish for them that Stanford had been a ranked opponent. I wish that Stanford had not gotten annihilated by USC in week 2. That would have been a great resume-boosting win for the Knights to try to just solidify their playoff resume. I know the odds of them getting into the college football playoff are very slim, but they've run the table the past 2 seasons by going undefeated in the regular season. And, of course, they want to add to that strength of schedule. But nonetheless, beating a quality Pac-12 opponent, one that is always a tough out for people, by a large margin is impressive for Central Florida and Josh Heupel. They move up 2 spots. Virginia moves up from 25th to 21st with their very narrow defeat of Florida State. An absolutely thrilling game on Saturday night. Virginia winning that game by just 7 points, stopping Florida State inside the 10-yard line as time expired. So those were really your biggest movers. No one really was a big drop outside of those 3 teams that we mentioned that were ranked in week 3 but have now lost and have dropped out. That, of course, was Maryland falling to Temple, USC falling to BYU, and then Michigan State falling to Arizona State, who is now in the top 25 at number 24, and rightfully so. We'll touch on them here in a second, but I want to mention the newcomer to the top 10, which is the 10th ranked Utah Utes. And they absolutely deserve to be ranked number 10 in the country right now. I thought they deserved to be in the top 10 last week, going into week 3. I thought that after Michigan's poor performance against Army, I thought that Utah deserved to jump that spot and be in the top 10. But now the AP has decided to do that. Michigan, who did not play in week 3, dropped 1 spot to 11th. Utah took care of business and moved into number 10. And that's a very prominent spot for the Utes, a very well-deserved spot for the Utes, who are not only trying to win the Pac-12, but are going to try to make a college football playoff appearance as well. Sitting there at number 10 is a very good spot to try to do that. So we mentioned Arizona State with their big-time win over Michigan State. If you look, we have 3 newcomers in the final 3 of this top 25. California, Arizona State, and TCU all making their first appearance in this year's top 25, of course the AP. And 2 of those teams we have on our trending up board. 2 of those teams we had when we did our Week 3 recap, we had on our teams trending up. And that is, of course, California and Arizona State. Cal taking care of business 2 weeks ago against Washington, going on the road to Seattle and upsetting the Huskies 20-19 on a last-second field goal. And the same can be said for Arizona State, who got their quality win just last week, going on the road and defeating number 18 Michigan State in what some people will say was controversial fashion. Arizona State scored the only touchdown that game with 50 seconds left. Michigan State kicked a game-tying field goal with about 6 seconds left, but they reviewed it and called too many men on the field. Michigan State had 12 men on the field. They had to redo the kick. They shanked it wide left, and when I say wide, I mean way wide, and Arizona State walked out of there with a quality win for Herm Edwards and the Sun Devils. And they absolutely deserve to be ranked. The same for California, and the same for TCU, who many consider this to be a bounce-back year for Gary Patterson and the Horned Frogs. They have only played 2 games, winning in Week 1 against Arkansas Pine Bluff, taking a bye week in Week 2, and in Week 3, going on the road and annihilating Purdue. So once again, a very disappointing start in non-conference for the Boilermakers, but TCU once again showing the strength of their defense, which we knew would be strong in 2019, but also being able to put up some points as well. Gary Patterson's Horned Frogs deserve to be 25th and do not need to be slept on in the Big 12 this season. So 3 newcomers there. Top 10 looks solid. I like the 20th to 25th mark here. The only thing I don't like, and if you've watched our previous ranking analysis, is of course the ties. Just rank them the way they need to be ranked. What's the difference between 13th and 14th? Why? And I get it's a point-based system. It's a voting-based system. I understand that. But Penn State and Wisconsin, both out of the Big Ten, tied at 13th right now. And to me, there's no reason to have 2 number 13s. A couple weeks ago, we had 2 25s between Nebraska and Iowa State. There's no need for that. Leave one out, put one in. If they win, they deserve to get in. If not, you made the right call. Here, 13th and 14th, what's the difference? It looks appealing because you got number 11 Michigan now taking on number 13 Wisconsin in Week 4, but I don't like the ties. I just don't see there being any need for that. But of course, I'm not on the AP poll. I'm not part of the committee. But nonetheless, that's what we've got. Breaking it down conference-wise, the SEC and the Pac-12 are tied with the number of representatives in this top 25. SEC bringing in 6, but it should be noted that 5 are coming in the top 10. So half of the top 10 are from the SEC. Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Auburn, and Florida. Of course, the Lone Ranger is Texas A&M sitting out at number 17, but they have a big matchup against Auburn in Week 4. The Pac-12 bringing in 6 teams in this top 25, so many people think the Pac is back. Let's just pump the brakes for a second. Let's see what their highest-ranked team in Utah can do for the rest of this season. The Big Ten is second with 5 teams. The Big 12 is third with 3 teams. The ACC and the Group of 5 each have 2. And, of course, you have your lone independent in Notre Dame, still in the top 10, sitting at number 7. Now, the last thing we want to address in this top 25 rankings are the games to watch out for and the teams to watch out for coming into Week 4. Last week, as we mentioned, there was not a single ranked versus ranked matchup. This week, we have 3 ranked versus ranked matchups, and all have major, not just conference implications, but college football playoff implications. The first big one we have is number 11 Michigan taking on 13th ranked Wisconsin, just like we mentioned a few minutes ago. This game big for many reasons because Michigan has struggled against Middle Tennessee and Army. How will they fare against Wisconsin on the road? A Wisconsin team that maybe has surprised some and is once again led by a Heisman Trophy candidate in Jonathan Taylor. Will Michigan's defense be able to swallow up Jonathan Taylor and force the Badgers to win this game through the air? It's a top 15 showdown, one that will be huge when it comes to the Big Ten standings, but huge more so for Michigan in their hopes of trying to crack the college football playoff. The second one is number 8 Auburn traveling to number 17, Texas A&M. And I have said it earlier, and I'll say it again, and I'll say it when we do our Week 4 previews, that I'm not sold on Auburn yet. I'm not sold on the Tigers. Their win over Oregon in Week 1 was great. It was a good win. I still firmly believe that Oregon blew that game and Auburn did not necessarily win it. Give them credit for never giving up and making the plays needed when they needed to. But Oregon blew that game, much like they blew that Stanford game in 2018. But if Auburn goes on the road to College Station and beats the Aggies, it will absolutely change my mind and will show me that Gus Malzahn and the Tigers are legit. But so is this Texas A&M team. This Texas A&M team has a very potent offense and defense that is constantly getting better. Held Clemson to just 24 points in Week 2. Can Auburn go on the road and take care of business, or can A&M solidify themselves as a contender in the West this season? And then our final game is, of course, the biggest. It's where College Game Day is going. It's going to be our game of the week. Spoiler alert, that's what's going to happen. Game of the week, on our predictions, Game Day is going to be there. Number 7 Notre Dame traveling to number 3 Georgia. Guys, in the first 4 weeks of the season, we will have already had 2 top 10 matchups. We had LSU and Texas in Week 2, and now we're going to have Notre Dame and Georgia in Week 4. You cannot ask for anything better. And this game is going to be an absolute thriller. A lot of people think Georgia's going to walk in there into Athens and take care of easy business. And I'm here to tell you that's not going to be the case. We're not going to share our official prediction yet, although I'm sure you can probably figure it out. But this game, of course, is not a conference game, unlike the other 2 we mentioned, but has major college football playoff implications. The winner of this game gets a huge resume-boosting win. The loser of this game is not out of contention, but it does take a bit of a toll, and it does take a little bit of a damper on those teams' season, on that team's hopes. So 3 huge games, all will be on our prediction video coming out later this week. You're not going to want to miss any of that analysis. And our last thing are the 2 teams that we have an upset alert. These are the things that we're going to start doing when we do these top 25 analysis. And we'll share more on that as we do our predictions. But watch out for Utah. They just cracked the top 10. They have a Friday night matchup on the road at USC. And while the Trojans just lost to BYU, that air raid offense is going to be very difficult to stop, even though they lost JT Daniels. So Utah needs to watch out and not afford to have a slip-up and a letdown on the road against the Trojans. And then Texas, sitting here at number 12. Watch out. We're going to have a thriller and a shootout in Austin as Oklahoma State comes to take on the Longhorns, a series that has been very, very close the past few seasons. Mostly, I would say, dominated by Oklahoma State. So watch out for those 2 games, trap games for 2 top 12 teams that, of course, have their eyes set on the college football playoff. So these are your rankings going into Week 4. It's going to be a much better week. Week 3 was upset Saturday, but now we're getting into the fun of college football. We're starting to see more conference games. We've got a top 10 showdown. We finally have games that have playoff implications, and we couldn't ask for anything better. So your top 25 analysis for Week 4, and of course we're going to be keeping this up for the rest of the 2019 season. So guys, once again, thank you for watching us here on YouTube. Go check us out on Twitter and Instagram at Gridiron Expert. And of course, our official website, thegridironexpert.com, where you can sign up for our weekly newsletter and sign up for our expert picks, which will give you every single one of our 2019 spread picks for just $30. And once again, thank you for watching us here on YouTube. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.